Imagine flying at a mere 100 feet, utterly exposed, suspended from your helicopter behind a machine gun with 2,000 rounds at your disposal, meticulously scanning for targets. Your weapon serves as your sole defense, as you desperately hope to avoid the sights of an enemy AK-47, 50 caliber machine gun, or even the devastating impact of a 23mm anti-aircraft gun. Vietnam helicopter gunners operated in a terrifying paradox, wielding almost absolute power while simultaneously experiencing profound vulnerability. Their role, however, was indispensable. This specialized role demanded unique individuals. Early in the Vietnam War, helicopter crews typically consisted of a pilot, co-pilot, and a crew chief who also functioned as the door gunner. However, the intensity of subsequent battles and the significant number of downed helicopters rapidly revealed an urgent need for enhanced aircraft protection. Consequently, a fourth crew member was added, the shotgun rider. This individual assumed one of the war's most terrifying positions, literally suspended halfway out of the helicopter, secured to the fuselage by a monkey strap. This precarious perch was inherently terrifying. Yet the lack of protection from enemy fire, combined with being a primary target, exacerbated the danger. Indeed, instances of gunners falling from helicopters occurred. Sometimes they would remain dangling by their strap, retrieved by the rest of the crew. Tragically, some gunners were not as fortunate. These soldiers were integral to critical missions, ranging from medical evacuations to direct infantry support and suppressing enemy positions. Following rigorous and demanding training, door gunners embarked on combat missions aboard legendary helicopters, enduring countless hours of flight and engagement. Their initial training covered the intercom system, assisting the crew chief, utilizing the clock system for directional indicators, and coordinating protective fire for other aircraft, all performed while exposed in the helicopter's open doorway. The primary weapon for door gunners was the M60 machine gun, supplemented by M14 or M16 rifles as backups. The M60 boasted a firing rate of 500 to 650 rounds per minute, with an effective range of approximately 1,300 yards. For this role, the M60 often underwent slight modifications, typically mounted on a swivel or pintle, or even suspended from the helicopter ceiling via a bungee cord to enhance maneuverability. In addition to the M60, M34 miniguns were employed, particularly on gunships, delivering a formidable firing rate of up to 6,000 rounds per minute. Gunners typically carried between 2,000 and 4,000 rounds, depending on the mission, and were tasked with judicious ammunition management to sustain their support. Every fifth round was a tracer, aiding the gunner in target acquisition, especially under low visibility conditions. Door gunners were assigned to either slicks or gunships. Slicks, such as the UH-1 Huey, primarily served as transport helicopters for troop movement, supply delivery, or medical evacuation. In this capacity, the door gunner's main responsibility was to provide defensive fire during vulnerable phases like takeoffs or landings, typically utilizing M60 machine guns. Gunships, conversely, were heavily armed helicopters, optimized for offensive combat. With door gunners operating as part of the attack team, they delivered close air support to ground troops using rockets, miniguns, or grenade launchers. Efforts were also made to mount a .50 caliber machine gun. However, mounting a .50 caliber machine gun on helicopters proved too heavy for effective deployment in this role. Gunners received training to operate machine guns from various positions and at diverse angles, adapting to combat requirements. They coordinated closely with the pilot, who would maneuver the helicopter to align with the gunner's field of fire. Nevertheless, the primary challenge remained accurate firing from a rapidly moving helicopter. Given the aircraft's high speed, varying angles and altitudes, evasive maneuvers, and engagement with moving targets, gunners were forced to employ intricate aiming compensations and techniques to achieve precision. Compounding these difficulties were constant helicopter vibrations and wind resistance, which severely hindered weapon stabilization. Theoretically, gunners were instructed to fire in short bursts of 5 to 7 rounds, pausing to evaluate impact before adjusting and re-engaging. In practice, however, they often compensated for inherent inaccuracies with sheer volume of fire. Gunners typically swept target areas, firing in wide arcs to maximize the probability of hitting an enemy and maintaining suppression. Crucially, they had to anticipate target movement, often aiming behind or below their targets, as bullets discharged from the helicopter retained the aircraft's forward momentum. Therefore, aiming was never a direct process. Constant adjustments were essential due to multiple variables. The protection afforded to door gunners was notably inadequate. Helicopters required minimal weight, rendering heavy, bulletproof shields impractical. Moreover, since the aircraft itself offered little ballistic protection, additional shields would have had negligible impact. Flak jackets were issued, but these primarily stopped smaller shrapnel, offering no defense against direct fire and merely adding heat and bulk to the gunner. While flight helmets provided some protection, their primary function was communication via a built-in intercom system. Ceramic chicken plates offered chest protection against small arms fire, but their weight and bulk led many crew members to discard them. Many crew members consequently discarded them, giving rise to the nickname chicken plates, implying only the cowardly wore them. The gunner functioned as the eyes and ears of the crew, meticulously scanning the ground for any movement or indicators of enemy activity. Given the Viet Cong's mastery of camouflage, identifying enemy positions within the dense jungle from a fast-moving helicopter demanded a highly trained and experienced observer. Even when something was spotted, definitive identification was often nearly impossible, leading to unfortunate incidents of friendly fire or civilian casualties. Lacking contemporary technologies such as night vision, thermal imaging, advanced optics, or drones, gunners had to make split-second decisions to engage based solely on visual cues from a high-speed, elevated platform. The enemy skillfully blended with the local population and environment, and many Viet Cong soldiers were reportedly as young as 12 integrated into their battle plans. Firing on the move made it impossible to ascertain precisely what or who they were hitting in the dense woods. Door gunners marked enemy positions with either tracer rounds or colored smoke grenades, aiming to keep the enemy's heads down. The most critical moments invariably occurred during landings and takeoffs in enemy territory, known as hot landing zones. In these areas, door gunners immediately unleashed relentless fire, aiming to provide cover for the troops being inserted or extracted. While this continuous suppressive fire protected the aircraft, it simultaneously rendered the door gunners primary targets for enemy fire, including snipers and RPGs. Despite the imperative to maintain constant suppressive fire, they were also tasked with judiciously managing their ammunition. This ensured they had sufficient rounds for the entire operation. Amidst the terrifying gunfire and overwhelming noise of chaotic missions, unpredictable incidents frequently arose. For instance, one young door gunner, after neutralizing what his crew believed to be an enemy group, observed a wounded enemy soldier, still alive upon landing, for inspection. Without informing anyone, he impulsively dismounted, intending to render aid. To his dismay, as he turned, he realized no one had noticed his departure, and his helicopter was departing without him. He remained alone for approximately half an hour in enemy territory, unarmed beside the wounded soldier, until his crew recognized his absence and returned for retrieval. His return was met with a severe reprimand. Conversely, many other incidents concluded tragically. Straps would occasionally snap, be improperly secured, or simply forgotten, leading gunners to literally fall from the helicopter during intense maneuvers. In one fortunate instance, a door gunner fell from a low altitude, landing directly atop two Viet Cong soldiers, the impact momentarily incapacitating all. He swiftly recovered, seized an enemy weapon, neutralized the two adversaries, and awaited his crew's return. For this astonishing feat, which defied belief without eyewitness testimony, he was awarded a medal for bravery. Numerous situations also saw severely or mortally wounded door gunners continue to provide crucial support and protection, completely disregarding their own grave injuries. Furthermore, the harrowing medical evacuation missions often involved flying directly into intense enemy fire to rescue comrades. Veterans frequently recount that 90% of their missions comprised monotonous flying and observing uninhabited jungle, while the remaining 10% was characterized by extreme fear and a desperate longing to return to the monotony, rather than combat. The psychological pressure on door gunners was immense, reflected in one of the highest casualty rates. The repetitive cycle of entering and exiting combat zones, engaging in firefights, and daily exposure to death led many to experience combat fatigue and post-traumatic stress. Nearly all helicopter crew members witnessed the deaths of friends and fellow crew members beside them, rendering them among the most profoundly affected veterans of the Vietnam conflict.